Hello students, welcome back to session 2 of Technical English Communication, Unit 1 on Environmental Consciousness. So in the last session, if you recall, we had discussed some concept points that would serve as a background for reading some of the texts in this unit. Let us take a couple of minutes to recall the concept points that we covered, the new phrases and words that you picked up in the last session. Let's take a quick recap. If you recall, I had discussed expressions like rising global temperatures, global warming, fossil and hydrocarbon fuels. We had discussed acid rain, melting glaciers, rising sea levels, pollution, deforestation, increased carbon emissions, ozone depletion, renewable, non-renewable energy sources, greenhouse gas emissions or greenhouse emissions, effect on biodiversity, disappearing flora and fauna, organic and inorganic waste or otherwise biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste, need for environment conservation, growing concern, need for global treaties. These are some of the concepts or expressions that we discussed would come handy for all of you when you're talking about the environment, the need for conserving the environment and the need to have environmental consciousness. Let us look at some more terms that we had discussed in the last session. If you recall, we had discussed a very important global treaty, an international agreement that we said was a landmark treaty to cut greenhouse emissions. That happened in the year 1997 at Kyoto in Japan, which is popularly referred to as Kyoto Protocol on climate change. We had discussed another important phrase, Conference of Parties, or what we called as COP. Conference of Parties, if you recall, we discussed means the member or the individual countries which signed this international agreement on climate change at Kyoto in 1997. So these member states in the first international agreement on climate change, that is at Kyoto, 37 countries had signed the summit and agreed to cap their greenhouse emissions, which in other words means cutting greenhouse emissions. So these member countries which signed that treaty at Kyoto in the year 1997 are popularly referred to as Conference of Parties, the member states. We had also discussed the expression carbon trading. Carbon trading we discussed means that the low carbon emitting countries like India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka can sell their carbon portion or quota to developed countries which tend to emit higher greenhouse emissions. So this led to a mechanism where the low carbon emitting countries sold their quotas to high carbon emitting countries like USA or many developed countries of Europe, and thereby it created a regime which involved carbon trading. And so those countries which had larger carbon footprint or were higher consumers and tended to create more carbon emissions bought the quota from the developing countries and continued to consume. So the lower emitting countries could monetize their quota and sell it to the developed countries. So this led to carbon trading. If you remember, we discussed it. Then we also discussed why the Kyoto Protocol was not working. We had discussed, if you remember, the top-down approach. That means top-down approach means in any organization or in any kind of structure where the decisions are made at the top and the decisions percolate, the action for these decisions has to be percolated to the lower ladders of the hierarchy or to the lower layers of the organizational hierarchy. This approach, which involves the decisions being made at the top of the pyramid and then the philosophy of that policy slowly diffusing or percolating to the lower layers, is called as top-down approach in management terms. The reverse of it is bottom-up approach, where the decisions are made through participative manner by the individuals who are going to be affected by those decisions. So a participatory approach is called as the bottom-up approach. For instance, in India, in our political system, every individual citizen has the right to vote, and they all together vote their leaders or their representatives. This is bottom-up approach. That means everybody is participating and influencing the decision that is going to be taken at the top, that is who is going to be the Prime Minister of the India and so on. So this is what you mean by top-down approach and bottom-up approach. Then we had also discussed setting voluntary targets. That means where targets are not decided by some top layer body, but the targets are set voluntarily by the individual countries which were negotiating for climate change. So voluntary means on one's own, without any kind of pressure or force from outside. So we discussed what it means to set voluntary targets. We had also discussed low carbon technologies. That means those technologies which are popularly considered to be green technologies. Countries which make the shift to cut the greenhouse emissions. If you remember, I had discussed an example of Delhi, where the Delhi's Chief Minister, Ms. Sheila Dikshit, had decided that they would ban all petroleum and diesel vehicles and they would shift to CNG. So all the public modes of transport as well as auto rickshaws, personal cars as well as public vehicles were advised to shift to CNG. So this is what you mean by low carbon technologies. Technologies which do not emit high levels of carbon. So, and then we had discussed trading, low carbon trading schemes. That means countries would negotiate with each other for buying technologies or for working on technologies or importing technologies which are less damaging to the environment and which generate low levels of carbon. So the trading scheme involving the exchange of technologies which are less polluting and more friendly to the environment. So adopting environmental friendly technologies. Then we had also discussed carbon emission reduction. If you recall, in the last class we discussed what are the 4 major sources of global warming or increasing the greenhouse effect. We had discussed that the primarily among them were carbon dioxide, methane, carbon monoxide. These are the most important greenhouse gases which tend to deplete the ozone layer and which burns the ozone layer and does not keep off the harmful ultraviolet radiation from the sun. As a result, it leads to increase in global temperatures and consequently leads to global warming. So we had also discussed expressions like muscular bilateralism. We discussed top-down approach, bottom-up approach, and we discussed muscular bilateralism, meaning when 2 countries are trading, if one of the countries has committed to international agreements on environment and another country refuses to sign up the treaty, then the country which is a member or which is a member of the Kyoto Protocol or any other international treaty on climate change can put pressure on the other country and refuse to conduct trade with them or refuse to have any trade relations with them. And we also discussed the role of World Trade Organization in affecting this kind of change, that is in putting this muscular bilateralism into place. So we will discuss that further when we take up today's lesson. And we also discussed expressions like phasing out. I had told you that phasing out means gradually replacing polluting technologies with environmental friendly technologies. Again, to go back to Sheila Dikshit's example of how she phased out petroleum and diesel and replaced it with CNG for all public transport with one dictum, with one state policy, that is, those vehicles which are polluting and do not use CNG will be removed, will be confiscated and will be imposed heavy penalties. So this brought about the desired change in the auto rickshaw drivers, in public transport, state public transport and so on. So everybody began to implement this new change. So this is what you mean by phasing out. Phasing out means gradually removing the polluting technologies to be replaced by eco-friendly or environmental friendly technologies. Please try to note down all these terms that I am giving you as a part of the discussion. Then we had discussed green technologies. Green technologies are nothing but eco-friendly technologies which do not harm the environment and which protect or help to conserve the environment. That means they have minimal impact on the environment and they are not polluting. And we discussed expression sustainable development. Sustainable development means economic development that is not harming the environment. So, can economic development and environmental conservation go hand in hand? Of course, they can go hand in hand provided we follow the sustainable mode of development. We look for alternatives that are more environmental friendly and less harmful to the environment. Then we had also discussed expression like improved accountability. So those countries which refuse to initially honor the policy on climate change, the international agreement on climate change, with subsequent climate summits, there was a gradual change in there was a gradual shift even in their outlook, and these countries also became more committed to the whole policy of climate change, and it improved their accountability. That means they became more responsible. They decided that they will also join the rest of the countries which are taking voluntary initiatives to arrest the adverse impact of the climate change by cutting greenhouse emissions, by reducing deforestation, by shifting to cleaner and greener technologies. These are the initiatives that the member countries started implementing one by one, and this created an atmosphere of collective responsibility, and this is what we mean by improved accountability. And then we had also discussed last session a term, World Environment Day. I had told you that the World Environment Day is internationally celebrated on 5th June every year, where the whole world decides to observe many programs like tree plantation programs. People voluntarily decide that for 1 hour, 9 to 10 or so, they will not consume any electricity. They will switch off all the fans and lights or air conditioning, refrigerator, all electrical appliances and so on. So World Earth Day and World Environment Day are 2 days when people decide that at least as a small gesture, they will do something to reduce the pollution that is harming the Earth's environment. So this is a brief recap of the contents that we covered in the last session. Now, let us, before we go to today's lesson, I would like to brief you little more on the background of the lesson. That is, let us have some more discussion on Kyoto Protocol. So what do we mean by Kyoto Protocol? As I already referred the term to you, Kyoto Protocol is the protocol. When we say protocol, what is the other alternative expression you can think of? I'm sure you can think of a word like convention. That means following the norms set by this international agreement. So the Kyoto Protocol is a protocol that was initiated by the UNFCCC. UNFCCC means United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and the broad objective or the goal of this UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change is to fight against climate change, primarily global warming. This is the broad objective of UNFCCC, and this protocol was first initiated or signed, drafted in the year 1997 at Kyoto in Japan, when the member countries met and they decided to sign this international treaty because they wanted to combat with the problem of climate change. And what is UNFCCC? UNFCCC is nothing but an international environmental treaty which has the goal of stabilization of greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere, and it wants to prevent anthropogenic interference with the climate system. Now look at this word. This is another new word that you all should get acquainted with. What does the word anthropogenic mean? Anthropogenic means this word has two subparts. The word anthrop means man, and gen as in gene, generate, genesis. Gen means birth or give rise to. So, when you say anthropogenic, you mean man-made activities or human interference. So, those aspects that are caused by human beings, the interference of human activities on the Earth's environment is creating a dramatic change in terms of the increasing global temperatures. So, the broad objective or the primary goal of UNFCCC, which is the International Environmental Treaty, was to stabilize the greenhouse emissions, to see that it does not exceed beyond the acceptable levels, and to see that it can prevent the dangerous man-made activities, industrial activities, vehicular pollution, livestock breeding, using pesticides and chemicals for farming. All these are man-made activities. Over harnessing water resources from the earth's surface, burning hydrocarbon fuels. All these are man-made activities which are generating some toxic or harmful chemicals or harmful emissions that are interfering with the earth's ecological balance. So these are things you need to keep in mind, that the UNFCCC plans to reduce the interference of anthropogenic activities on the environmental system. This is the broad objective. And this Kyoto Protocol was adopted on 11th December 1997, as I already mentioned to you, in Kyoto, and it came into force from the year 16th February 2005. As of September 2011, 191 states have signed and ratified this protocol. So, by the year 2011, how many countries have signed? 191 countries have signed this protocol, this international agreement. But there is one very, very important thing you need to remember. What is that? That though 37 countries under this Annex 1 countries, 37 countries signed this treaty was not ratified by USA, which is a big problem because USA, as you all know, is one of the most consuming and most polluting countries of the world. So according to the Annex 1, what did these countries commit to? They committed to reducing 4 greenhouse gases: carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide and sulfur hexafluoride, and 2 groups of gases, fluorochlorocarbons and hydrofluorocarbons and fluorocarbons. So these are the most dangerous chemicals or gases which are emitted into the environment and which are hampering the delicate ecological balance of Mother Earth. So, under this protocol, these 37 countries which first signed the treaty under Annex 1, what did they agree? They agreed that they would cap the greenhouse emissions by how much percentage? 5.2%. They would all cap their greenhouse emissions but for the next 4 years, they will try to reduce the greenhouse emissions by at least 5%. That was the agreement with which they separated from each other in the year 1997 when they first signed the treaty. But what happened subsequently, these countries went back and ratified the treaties by passing a bill in their own countries, except for one country, which I already said, US did not ratify. And as a result, US did not honor the terms of the treaty, and so the agreed goal could not be met. Instead of 5.2% greenhouse emissions, only 4.2% greenhouse emissions could be, a goal could be attained. This is a little background about the Kyoto Protocol. Now, one more important thing. In the year 2011, when the next summit was conducted, next summit, where was it conducted in 2011? It was conducted in Durban. So, when people were getting ready for the Durban summit, USA had not yet ratified the Kyoto Protocol, and US raised the major objection that not only developed countries, but even developing countries, poor countries should also sign this treaty. Otherwise, it puts a burden and it involves developed countries to make more sacrifices, and it will be very pinching to them. So, the main objection of US to ratify this treaty was that the nature of participation of developing countries. US said that it would not ratify the protocol unless developing countries are also required to keep greenhouse gas levels at the targeted minimums. And USA felt that this treaty was very punishing and unfair to them because it will affect them most severely, because USA is the most developed countries and its consumption rate was the highest among all countries. So, USA not joining the agreement and not ratifying the agreement proved to be a big setback in realizing the goals and the terms that were mentioned by the Kyoto Protocol. Then, with this against this background, if I had given you yesterday the title of your book, Mindscapes, you will read the first lesson. The title of the first lesson is a Global Agreement the Only Way to Tackle Climate Change? This is the first reading text that we are going to read, and I have already given you the background against which you should read this text. So, since we are doing this lesson in the digital mode, I will once again briefly sum up the key ideas of the text, and I hope that you will read the text on your own and be able to understand what is the text discussing. So, when I am going to explain about this text, I would like all of you to make your notes, write your points. You need not write whole sentences. You can write your points as bullets, keywords, so that you can put these notes together to prepare your summary, which I will expect all of you to write in your own words and share the assignment with us by the time we meet in the next class. So, please listen very keenly and attentively to jot down the key ideas. So, I want you to do note taking, and I will show you in the next session how to do note taking. Note taking is a very important study skill. When you are going to sit in the engineering classroom, you will be listening to a large amount of content being shared by your teachers on a day-to-day basis. So, making quick notes by jotting down key ideas, phrases and expressions, you will be able to easily assimilate the content while the content is being shared by the teacher with you. And after going home each day, when you review your notes, you will be able to develop the complete lecture as if you heard it for the first time. So, this is a very important skill. Mind you, please remember to take the notes while I am going to briefly discuss the contents of this lesson. So, yes, so this reading lesson prescribed for you Is a Global Agreement the Only Way to Tackle Climate Change was written just before the 2011 Climate Summit at Durban. So this is actually, the text that you're going to read is actually a news article written by two writers, David King and Achin Steiner in 2011. They wrote this news article on the eve of the Durban summit in 2011, and they are speculating on how this summit could turn out to be. They are speculating on the agenda, what could be the probable discussions or deliberations that could happen during the summit at Durban. So the text is a news story written on the eve of COP17. So Conference of Parties, this is the 17th meeting of the Conference of Parties, the individual states who signed this Kyoto Protocol. And before that, there is another important protocol on climate change, that is the Montreal Treaty. Kyoto Protocol is one landmark treaty, but much before that, in the year 1989, the Montreal Treaty was signed. It was also an international agreement signed by the Conference of Parties to reduce ozone depletion. The primary agenda of Montreal Treaty, or the main goal of Montreal Treaty, was to reduce greenhouse emissions to prevent ozone depletion. Later, the shift from the Montreal Treaty to the Kyoto Protocol, the shift has happened. Still the main goal is how to cut down or cap the greenhouse emissions, but now the problem is a much more burning problem which can no longer be avoided. A looming crisis, climate crisis, confronted all the nations, and which led to the signing of Kyoto Protocol to arrest global warming, or otherwise simply referred to as climate change. So, the writers who write this article, "Is a global agreement the only way to tackle climate change?" are actually speculating on the agenda of COP17, the Conference of Parties 17th meeting, which is going to happen in 2011 at Durban. So, what they speculate on what would be the likely course of the talks that will happen, the negotiations that will happen between the member countries which will participate in the Durban Climate Conference. They say that one of the key subjects at the Durban Conference 2011 Climate Summit could be discussing the failure of the Kyoto Protocol. There could be possibly some deliberations on why Kyoto Protocol failed, though it was hailed as a landmark treaty and everybody was very optimistic about Kyoto Protocol delivering the required results of arresting the greenhouse emissions. So, one of the likely topics that may figure in the discussions during the 2011 Durban talks, climate negotiations, could be the failure of the Kyoto Protocol. And then the writers go on to discuss in the text what happened, why did Kyoto Protocol fail? Why was the treaty not honored, and why did it fail to bring about the desired results? Well, first and the most important reason they say is, clearly the failure of Kyoto Protocol indicates that the top-down approach is not working. That means the country heads of different developing and developed countries meeting together across the table and signing a treaty on paper, unless it is followed up by the required action, this treaty with its top-down approach is not going to give the desired results. This is the opinion of the two writers. Then they say that the Kyoto Protocol with its top-down approach, that means individual country heads sitting at the top and then signing the treaty, failed to give the desired results. What was the desired results? What is it that they had? The agenda was 5% emissions, greenhouse emissions should be reduced as per Annex 1. We already discussed. According to Annex 1, 37 countries were required to cap a minimum of 5% of greenhouse emissions by the time they come for the next summit, which was to happen after 4 years. But the treaty also had set very low targets. This is what the writers fail. Given the scale of the problem of climate change, just 5% cap on greenhouse emissions by the member countries is not going to bring any significant change in the quality of Earth's environment. So the writers think that this target itself was a very low target and it was woefully inadequate, okay, given the scale of the problem, that is the problem of climate change. Then another challenge was, one is the low target, setting of low targets, that is a mere 5.2% emissions to be capped was not enough. The looming climate crisis demanded setting much higher targets and working meticulously to realize those targets. And another challenge was that one of the most polluting countries and high consuming countries like USA had walked out, had not ratified the treaty, had not honored the treaty. This was a major challenge why Kyoto Protocol was obviously not working. Then the writers go on to discuss about something significant that happened in 2003. 2003 climate summit or the Conference of Parties meeting in Cancun, Mexico in 2003 made some significant breakthrough. What happened during that climate summit? United Kingdom decided that it would try to break this kind of stalemate or this deadlock where US was saying, no, we will not sign the treaty unless other countries did, and unless everybody else set voluntary targets, we are not going to yield any ground. This was USA's stance. So UK said that this is not working, let us do something differently. So what did they do? They sought some alternative way of negotiating. Alternative negotiations happened and UK showed the way. United Kingdom showed the way. What did United Kingdom do? It said that it would set target by the year 2050. It announced, declared to the whole world, to all the member parties, all the Conference of Parties who had come to the Cancun summit, climate summit. UK announced that by the year 2050, it would have capped almost 60% of its greenhouse emissions. So UK took an aggressively competitive stance. It said that it is going to show the way and it is going to work very systematically towards realizing this goal. That means by 2050, 60% of its greenhouse gases would be capped. That was the promise UK made to the rest of the world. And this proved to be a bargaining chip. So UK setting the goal and setting its targets was shown as a chip, as a bargaining chip for getting targets from other countries. This became a motivating factor for other countries. So UK said, see, I have set my target. I have agreed to cap 60% of the greenhouse gases by the year 2050. What about you? UK began to negotiate with the other partnering countries with which it conducted trade. And so this became a chip for bargaining and negotiating and getting targets to be set by the other member countries also. And so UK's aggressive competitive announcements spurred other countries. Spurred, we will learn one more word in this text, galvanized. That means set into action, impelled these other countries also to action, motivated them to act, spurred them, motivated them, galvanized them into action. Other countries like Brazil, China, Mexico, South Africa, Indonesia, and even the poorest of the poor countries like Rwanda of African continent, all these countries came up one by one and announced their own targets. Voluntarily, they also set their targets and agreed to comply with the terms of the Kyoto Treaty. And this indicated that clearly where the top-down approach had failed to bring the desired results in the climate change, the bottom-up change was finally working. So, what do we mean by bottom-up change? We mean where the member countries, the individual members voluntarily decide to do something rather than being imposed upon some course of action that comes from top and to which they were not initially party to. So, individual countries agreeing to set their own targets and working towards realizing those targets is clearly an example of bottom-up approach. So, where the clearly the top-down approach had failed, finally we could see that the bottom-up approach began to show some significant improvement in the situation. So, if countries don't set voluntary targets for themselves, refuse to honor the terms and refuse to become a member and sign the Kyoto Treaty, the climate treaties, what should be done? How to bring those countries which do not sign the treaty or which do not agree to honor the terms of these climate treaties, what should be done? Then there was another strategy that was thought of, that is muscular bilateralism. Muscular bilateralism, I already discussed in the last session, means where two trading countries, if one of the countries is a member of the climate treaty or international agreement on climate change and the other member is not a signatory of the treaty on climate change, then the country which has already signed the treaty can exert pressure on the country which has not signed the treaty and say that they would not have any kind of trade exchange with them unless the other country with which it was conducting trade also signed up the treaty and became a member of this conference of parties. This is how. So, the individual member countries which had set voluntary targets could influence the other countries which had not joined this treaty agreement so far to also become a member and start implementing these terms of reference of Kyoto Protocol so that we could have safer and improved climate or environment. So, this is what we mean by muscular bilateralism. And under whose supervision will this muscular bilateralism be implemented? Obviously not under UNO, not under UN, United Nations, but under World Trade Organizations, which is the apex body that oversees all the relations between the individual member countries which conduct trade with each other. So, muscular bilateralism was another strategy that could be implemented under the purview of World Trade Organization, where member countries which have signed the international agreement on climate change can exert influence on those countries which have kept away and see that they also join the group and they also sign the agreement and start initiating change to improve the global environment. This is what we mean by muscular bilateralism. Then, not only top-down approach, the authors say, the two authors David King and Steiner, both of them say that just bottom-up approach will not deliver the change or just muscular bilateralism will not bring about the change, desired change, but all these strategies should go hand in hand. Collectively together, they could bring about the desired change. So, and he says, these writers say that international agreements are very important. Just because Kyoto Protocol did not bring the expected level of change, it doesn't mean that Kyoto Protocol is completely defunct or any other international treaty is dysfunctional and so it should be done away with. That is not what the writers say. The writers say that international agreements are also important because they serve as a catalyst. They serve as an agent of change to bring about the required behavioral shift in the member countries so that they can do some policy implementation in their own countries to bring about the climate improvement. And within a short time, from the year 2011, when UK came out, from the year 2003 at Cancun, when UK came out and made its announcements, by the year 2010, the writers say the situation was very encouraging. Almost 211 billion US dollars had already been invested on new renewable energy sources, which was a very positive step towards improving the global climate. And a UN-led, United Nations-led global partnership was underway to phase out. To phase out means to be replaced with. To phase out the use of lead in vehicular fuels in developing countries, for example, India. So earlier, if you remember, a decade back, using lead as a cracking agent in vehicular fuel was very common. But lead is one of the most polluting agents, and it is largely responsible for the ozone depletion. So, UN-led global partnership is what helped to phase out, means to replace with other more environment-friendly fuels and to stop the usage of lead in diesel and petrol in countries like India. This indicates that finally the global treaties, international agreements on climate change were indeed working. And who was driving this change? Who are the real drivers of this change? Not governments alone or not public bodies, public sector bodies. It was actually private sector that mostly drove the change. And private sector was more vocal when compared to the government bodies in driving this low carbon investments. So private sector played a very major role in investing in large amounts into green technologies and low carbon investments so that we could have cleaner and more viable technologies. So, having discussed this lesson, I'm sure you got a broad understanding. I want you to use these points that you have jotted down and kindly share the summary with me in the next assignment when I'm going to announce it. Please keep these notes, and you must put these ideas and notes that you gathered from listening to this lecture, and you must share the summary when I ask you for it. So, before we conclude today's session, let us just have a quick look at the kind of new words, the new lexical items or vocabulary that we picked up during the discussion. If you were listening attentively, you would have seen that I used most of these words when I was explaining to you the lesson. So, we have from the first session, we have discussed words environmental consciousness. The word environmental consciousness means being sensitive to the environment, being aware of how your activities are affecting the environment, how your lifestyle could impact the environment and compromise the quality of the environment, which again has an effect on you. So, environmental consciousness means being mindful, being sensitive and leading a more environmental friendly lifestyle. Then, the real driver for change, I just discussed it a couple of minutes ago. The real driver for change for green low carbon investment was not public sector companies but private sector. So, this is another new word you have picked up. Please use these lexical chunks when you talk or write about climate change. So, I have introduced many new terms and new vocabulary, new expressions. I hope that you will use them when you write your summary as well as when you are going to speak and make a presentation on environment. So, the real driver for change was the public sector. The real driver for change was the private companies. who were very vocal about low carbon investments. Being vocal, being a driver of change, that means a catalyst of change. Then redundant exercise, we discussed. What does the word redundant mean? Redundant means made useless, having no longer any use. So when you say redundant exercise, you mean that it is of no use. It is absolutely unrequired or inessential. Binding international agreement. So Kyoto Protocol was meant to be a binding international agreement. All the other countries, 37 countries, signed it in total, but USA did not ratify it. So I want to go back to this. You can see the map here. All the countries that are given there in the brown, okay, which are indicated in the brown, are those countries which have signed the Kyoto Protocol and implemented it, except USA, except Canada. So these countries of North America, see the entire South America, the entire African continent, good part of Asia, Australia, all these countries have honored the Kyoto Protocol, except for this small country here and except for this North American continent. So when we talk about, yes, binding international agreement, we mean that this agreement imposed terms of reference on these individual countries and expected them to not just be paper signatories, but to implement it in letter and spirit by instituting appropriate policies in their own countries and action to bring about the required change. That is cutting down greenhouse emissions, shifting from burning hydrocarbon fuels, non-renewable fuels to renewable fuels, eco-friendly fuels, investing on cleaner and greener technologies, having more forestation projects and so on. Then contribute to the environment. How does your actions contribute to the environment? This is a very useful expression when you speak about the environment. This is a good collocation. I don't want to contribute to the environment in terms of pollution. I want to contribute to the environment in a good way. I don't want to contribute any waste to the environment. I want to reduce my carbon footprint. So alternative approach, this is another collocation we have come across. When Kyoto Protocol, the top-down approach was not working, then an alternative approach for climate negotiations was arrived at. Kick-started, we learned the term kick-started. What does kick-started mean? That means to jump-start, to give a quick start, and then to make a good headway or head start. So UK kick-started the Cancun deliberations by announcing to the whole world, declaring that it would cut 60% of greenhouse emissions by the year 2050. So this kick-started the summit on a very positive note, and one by one, like a chain reaction, all the other member countries also started announcing their own targets and agreeing to abide by the terms of the international agreement. Bargaining chip, a chip, something that is used for bargaining, for negotiating, for getting the desired concession or desired action from the other party is called bargaining chip. Putting a cap on greenhouse emissions. So to put a cap on something, that means to restrict, to limit. Putting a cap on greenhouse emissions simply means limiting the amount of greenhouse emissions. Low emission technology, we have already discussed this. Those technologies which lead to low emission of greenhouse. What is the low emission we are referring here? Obviously, greenhouse gases. Pivotal role. So UNO has tried to play a pivotal role, UNFCCC has tried to play a pivotal role in drafting the Kyoto Treaty, and for muscular bilateralism, it is the WTO, which is going to play a pivotal role. Pivot means the fulcrum, an important role, a deciding role. Aggressively competitive, we already discussed this term. UK was aggressively competitive in the 2003 Cancun summit when it announced that it would cut its greenhouse emissions by 2050 to 60%. So it took an aggressive means very forceful, very strong, very powerful stance, being competitive in an aggressive way, in a very forceful way, energetic way, galvanized. You know a galvanometer. Galvanized means to jumpstart, to give it life, to give it energy, to give it momentum. So galvanized into action, that means mobilized into action. That is what it means. So when UK announced its results, other countries were also galvanized into action. They were also compelled to act. Flexible mechanism. So when we talk about carbon trading schemes, we say that it is flexible mechanism. USA, which is more polluting, need not cut down its greenhouse emissions. Instead, it can buy the carbon quotas from developing countries like Bangladesh or Nepal, which are less polluting, and probably then it won't be. So that is a flexible mechanism. The carbon quota, the carbon trading scheme is a flexible mechanism. Voluntary initiatives. Initiative means a course of action to start something on one's own. So UK made a voluntary initiative of setting its targets. Act as a catalyst. So we said catalyst means a change maker, something that leads to change without itself being changed. You already know from your study of chemistry. Sell by date. What is it that we sell by date? Medicines, food products which come with an expiry date. So sell by date means which has a limited shelf life, which will become redundant soon. That is what you mean by sell by date. That means it will be valid only for a certain period of time. This is another expression that you will come across in the text. Then combating climate change. Combating means tackling, dealing with, fighting with. So the word combat means fight. Then short-term life cycle. Short-term life cycle means that which gives quick results within a short time. It is not a big life cycle, but it just requires 2 or 3 steps to complete the cycle and give the desired results. That is what you mean by short-term life cycle. What are we referring to short-term life cycle? Technologies, which are quickly brought into use with short-term life cycle. They quickly come into place, and when a better version of the technology comes in, this automatically becomes redundant, or this is what we mean by sell by date. It is replaced or superseded by another more effective technology. And scaling up. Scaling up means improving, increasing the scale of activity quickly. That is what you mean by scaling up. Vagaries of individual government. Vagaries means whims and fancies, irregular way of dealing with something. So government body is not disciplined, isn't it? Individual governments all do not deal with the climate change problem in the same way. They have their own whims and fancies, their own individual ways of going about it. Vulnerable. What does the word vulnerable mean? Defenseless. That which is easily hurt or easily harmed. That is what you mean by vulnerable. Young children need to be protected. They are very vulnerable. They are so defenseless. Most vocal. Most vocal means very expressive, very assertive in saying what they want to say. Will bridge. Will bridge. To bridge means to bridge what? A gap. To fulfill something. High risk strategy. A strategy that is prone to high risk, but if it succeeds, will give good results. Legitimate. What does the word legitimate mean? Justified, which is fair, which is legal, which is ethical, and which is right, which can be defended. That is what you mean by legitimate. Pinning the future. Pinning the future hopes. Pinning means place your expectations on something. Put your hopes on something. Pinning the future. Political divide. When we say political divide, we mean that divided politically by virtue of having a power. Developed countries and underdeveloped countries, there's a clear political divide of how these countries are able to. For instance, USA did not sign the treaty and it could still hold on to its ground. But poorer countries cannot yield, were compelled to yield to the pressure and sign the treaty. So there is a clear political divide in the way the individual countries were allowed to treat the aspect of signing the Kyoto Protocol. Enormous act of faith, that means do something by putting your trust or faith in something, though there is no clear evidence, empirical evidence to say that this will work, still you do something as an act of faith and hoping that it will turn out for the better. That is, do something based purely on faith and not on reason is called enormous act of faith. And finally, improved accountability. That means it improved people's ability to turn out responsible results. Improved accountability, to be accountable means to be responsible, to take the responsibility. So when WTO started to exert muscular bilateralism as a strategy, apply muscular bilateralism as a strategy and to flex the muscles, then it improved the accountability, responsibility on the individual countries, and they were also compelled to sign the treaty and comply with the terms of the treaty. So with this, we conclude today's session. It was quite a information-packed session. I hope that you were all able to distill the essence of what I have covered in this last 1 hour, and I hope that you will all be ready to put your notes together and write a summary in the next assignment when I announce it. So we'll meet again in the next session to continue with the next lesson in this unit, which will be on Chennai's disappearing green cover. Thank you very much.